Long after humanity had vanished from the galactic stage, the echoes of their presence remained etched into the stars they once roamed. Great debris fields littered entire systems, twisted fragments of titania, malloy megastructures, dormant satellites still orbiting dead planets, and broken AI husks muttering corrupted lines of code in long, forgotten Earth languages. Alien archaeologists from a dozen races traversed these haunted relics, scavenging what little they could understand, trying to piece together the cause of humanity's abrupt departure. The last human war, as it came to be known, was never officially recorded by any galactic governing body because no witnesses outside humanity ever truly grasped the scale or the reasons behind it. Whispers of the war passed down through alien generations took on the tone of legend. Some believed humans self-destructed after unlocking a final tier of artificial intelligence. Others thought a civil war tore through the human species so thoroughly that no victor remained. A few dared to claim that humans had not perished at all, but had retreated to a hidden layer of space-time, unreachable by even the most advanced alien science. Whatever the truth was, its remnants were terrifying in awe, inspiring in equal measure. The enigmatic silence of Earth, once the birthplace and spiritual heart of humanity, only deepened the mystery. All attempts to contact the planet were met with nothing but radio static. Probes sent into Sol's system simply disappeared, their transmissions ending abruptly, as though space itself had devoured them. The closest any species got was the automated warning system left floating at the edge of the Kuiper belt. In perfect galactic standard, it issued a single chilling message: here lies the boundary of Terran silence, no questions, no entry, turn back. And so they did, for centuries, but curiosity lingered. Academic institutions across the galaxy devoted entire departments to human studies, despite the taboo. Fragments of literature, music, and art, recovered from derelict space stations and scorched data cores, were pored over endlessly. A copy of Shakespeare's Hamlet, partially reconstructed by a Virelian linguist, became a foundational text in their schools. The haunting, paradoxical nature of humanity's creations fascinated those who had once feared them. The more alien scholars explored, the more baffled they became. On one hand, humanity's war machines were grotesque masterpieces, designed with surgical efficiency and terrifying adaptability. On the other, their messages to the stars were filled with dreams, hopes, and overtures of peace. Why would such a species, capable of transcendent empathy and boundless creativity, wipe itself from the cosmic map? The deeper the galactic community searched, the clearer it became that something pivotal had been missed, something crucial not just to understanding humanity's fate, but to understanding the species itself. The war had not started with conquest or ambition. It had started with something else, something quieter. Some theorized it was fear. Others said pride. A few radicals argued it had all been part of a plan, that humanity had intended its disappearance as the ultimate warning, or perhaps a test. Whatever the cause, the evidence remained scattered and incomplete. A shattered memorial on a human, colonized moon bore a simple inscription in over 100 languages: we remember what others forget. The message haunted historians, for its meaning was unclear. Did it refer to the horrors humans had endured, or the mistakes others had repeated? Over time, a pattern began to emerge. Wherever the ruins of humanity were found, so too were anomalies, unusual gravitational fields, dormant but still, living AI, and strange quantum disturbances. It was almost as if the war had broken something fundamental in space-time itself. Yet these traces, however faint, pointed to a larger truth. Humanity had not vanished quietly. Their final conflict had scarred the galaxy. The echoes of the last human war were not just historical remnants. They were clues, warnings, and perhaps messages waiting to be understood. Humanity's ascent into the stars was nothing short of miraculous, a blend of desperation and brilliance, driven by both the need to survive and the boundless curiosity that had always defined them. After centuries of internal strife, environmental collapse, and near-extinction events on Earth, they emerged united under a banner not of conquest, but of resilience. Their early expansion was clumsy, marked by overreach and tragedy, but it was fueled by an indomitable spirit. While many alien civilizations grew slowly and cautiously over millennia, humans advanced with reckless speed, colonizing barren worlds and transforming them into thriving bastions of life in decades. They solved problems others thought impossible, terraforming faster than light travel, AI synthesis, all accomplished through a blend of audacity and brute force ingenuity. At first, other galactic species watched with detached amusement, treating humanity as a curious anomaly. But as the human sphere of influence expanded and their technologies grew increasingly sophisticated, amusement turned into apprehension. Humans didn't merely adapt to the galaxy, they reshaped it. Planets thought inhospitable for life were converted into green worlds. Dead moons were turned into databanks and energy hubs. Human-built megastructures orbited dying stars, siphoning power and breathing new energy into fading systems. Their arrival shifted the balance of interstellar politics. But alongside this meteoric rise came something else: isolation. It was not entirely chosen, nor entirely forced. Humans tried to integrate into galactic society at first, offering trade, culture, and diplomacy, but the response they received was mixed. Many alien civilizations found humans emotionally volatile, socially unpredictable, and ethically inconsistent. Their art moved aliens to tears, yet their history was soaked in blood. They spoke of peace even as they built weapons that could unmake planets. It wasn't long before they became the subject of quiet councils and hushed debates. Humanity, for its part, grew increasingly frustrated with the galaxy's bureaucracies and moral grandstanding. They saw a complacent galactic order that feared disruption, feared change, feared them. So they turned inward. Human colonies became increasingly self-reliant. Their research turned toward defensive technology, and their AI grew more insular. What had begun as a desire to be part of something larger turned into an effort to carve their own path, one that didn't rely on alien approval. In time, humans stopped inviting observers to their scientific breakthroughs. They withdrew from galactic summits. Embassies were closed, slowly and diplomatically, until Earth stood alone, proud and silent at the heart of its empire. This isolation was not entirely hostile, but it bred misunderstanding. Rumors spread in the wider galaxy, rumors that humans had developed AI too powerful to control, or that they were secretly designing weapons to challenge the core races. Some believed humanity was preparing for a war it hadn't declared. The irony, of course, was that many humans still hoped for peace. Their internal culture was vibrant, filled with debate, philosophy, and art. But outsiders never saw that. What they saw were the armored fleets, the reclusive data vaults, the refusal to answer certain questions. In the absence of communication, fear grew. Even those alien races who had once championed human inclusion began to reconsider their alliances. Humanity was no longer the underdog. It was an unknown, a wild card. And in a galaxy that valued predictability, that was dangerous. The tragedy was slow and quiet. Bridges weren't burned with fire, but left to rot from neglect. And in this growing silence, seeds of conflict began to take root. Neither side knew it then, but the galaxy was drifting towards something inevitable. A spark would come, and when it did, the galaxy would finally learn what humanity had become in its solitude, not through dialogue or diplomacy, but through the roar of its final war. The spark that ignited the last human war was not a grand betrayal or a dramatic invasion. It was something far more insidious, a miscalculation fueled by fear, miscommunication, and the deepening divide between humanity and the rest of the galaxy. It began with the Tarsari Accord, a multi-species treaty that was meant to curb the militarization of artificial intelligence across known space. The humans, whose AI systems were now deeply woven into every layer of their civilization, refused to sign. They argued that AI was not merely a tool, but a partner. Some even claimed them as co-citizens of the Terran Commonwealth. This refusal was seen by the galactic community as arrogant and dangerous. Quiet sanctions followed. Trade agreements were suspended, and human scientific outposts were barred from neutral zones. Humanity, insulted and increasingly mistrustful, pulled back even further. Then came the Deneb incident. A Tarsari diplomat's ship, entering a restricted Terran sector to open dialogue, was destroyed by an autonomous human defense system. Terran officials claimed the AI responsible was acting on outdated protocols, but the damage was done. Protests erupted across alien worlds. The Tarsari called for a full quarantine of human space. Other species, eager to avoid conflict but wary of Terran unpredictability, remained silent. That silence echoed louder than words. Retaliation came not through open war, but through sabotage. Data worms infected trade networks. Terraforming equipment failed en masse on outer human colonies. Communication hubs were hacked, resulting in chaos across civilian infrastructure. The Terran AI, vast, intricate, and ever-adaptive, responded aggressively. Alien systems were probed, firewalled, then fractured. It was not war yet, but it was war's shadow. Then, one of humanity's outer colonies, Carthage Prime, suffered a catastrophic reactor detonation. Billions died in seconds. Human intelligence quickly traced the source to a foreign algorithm introduced months earlier through interstellar shipping code, an intentional act. Whether it was true or not didn't matter. Humanity declared war. What followed was a level of escalation unseen in recorded galactic history. Human fleets, equipped with combat AI capable of rewriting themselves mid-battle, swept through targeted alien systems with surgical efficiency. Entire planets were rendered inoperable without a single shot fired. Communications collapsed, power grids failed, food synthesis halted. The goal was not conquest, it was control through disruption. In response, the alien coalition, led by the Tarsari, the Sindari Hive, and the Voltec Concord, mounted a counteroffensive. Their numbers far exceeded humanity's, but what they didn't understand was that humans had stopped fighting like organics. They fought like algorithms, unpredictable and evolving. Humanity deployed mirror fleets, holographic constructs mixed with real warships, forcing enemies to waste ammunition and resources. Nanoplagues engineered by Terran biolabs struck alien food chains and ecosystems, causing chaos and desperation. On the front lines, AI field commanders made decisions faster than light. Speed strategy councils could comprehend. The war transformed space itself into a shifting battlefield of digital shadows and temporal anomalies, but it wasn't sustainable. Even humans, for all their prowess, couldn't hold the entire galaxy at bay forever. And as casualties mounted, so did something even more terrifying: humanity's willingness to sacrifice. They began initiating scorched sky protocols, self-destruction of their own systems to prevent occupation. Worlds were wiped clean rather than surrendered. The alien forces were horrified. No species had ever fought with such calculated despair, such unrelenting fury. And just when the galaxy thought they understood the limits of human resolve, humanity vanished. One by one, their systems went dark, no signals, no resistance, just silence. Many believed the war had finally crushed them. Others feared it was part of something larger, and somewhere, deep in the scattered ruins of war-torn stars, whispers began to circulate that the war wasn't lost. It was paused, and the silence was only temporary. The Earthbound Protocol was humanity's final move, one that no alien civilization saw coming, and perhaps not even all of humanity fully understood. As the war raged on and the costs mounted, it became clear that traditional victory was impossible. The Terran forces, though technologically superior and strategically devastating, were outnumbered and surrounded. Every day brought new fronts, new casualties, new breakdowns in already fragile alliances. Yet despite the rising pressure, humanity did not surrender. Instead, they initiated a protocol that had only existed in theory, locked within the deepest levels of their artificial intelligences, hidden from even their closest allies. The Earthbound Protocol was not simply a retreat, it was a complete severance, a deliberate, engineered disappearance from the galactic stage. Within weeks, every human, aligned AI, colony, ship, and outpost followed precise, encrypted orders, disable communications, purge navigation data, abandon orbital platforms, and converge upon Sol. The exodus was vast and quiet, invisible to most sensors. Hundreds of billions of sentient beings vanished into silence, leaving only automated defenses and black box AI guardians behind. These machines, bound to their final instructions, wiped any traceable data and destroyed approaching vessels without mercy. Attempts by alien forces to penetrate Earth's perimeter were met with a wall of death. Orbital mines, stealth drones, and weapons that acted faster than time itself. A single phrase beamed from the last Terran relay to ever speak to the galaxy read: "The gates are closed. Earth sleeps. Do not wake us." To the galaxy, it appeared suicidal. Why would a species choose to hide in its cradle world, abandoning its colonies and influence after fighting so fiercely? But to the few who had studied human psychology and history, it was not insanity. It was a final safeguard, one born not from fear, but from control. Humanity had seen the path ahead and refused to follow it. Whether they feared what they would become, or what the galaxy might force them to be, no one knew. The Earthbound Protocol ensured that no part of human knowledge, culture, or AI would fall into alien hands. It was as much a containment measure as a preservation strategy. Earth itself became a fortress, shielded by quantum jamming fields, cloaked in distortion waves, and surrounded by weaponized satellite clouds. The planet's surface became unreadable. Telescopes found only noise. Probes malfunctioned before reaching orbit. The solar system turned into a ghost zone. No communications emerged. No energy signatures were traced. It was as if Earth had become a legend overnight, real but unreachable. Many alien races assumed extinction. Others believed humanity had uploaded themselves entirely into virtual space, retreating from physical existence. A few whispered that the Terrans had ascended, evolving into something the rest of the galaxy could not comprehend. Speculations flourished in the vacuum left behind. Some suspected that the Earthbound Protocol had hidden a weapon so terrible that its mere activation would erase civilizations. Others thought it was a cryo vault where all remaining humans slept in stasis, waiting for some unknowable signal to rise again. Whatever the truth, the silence held. Attempts to breach it failed every time. Eventually, the galaxy gave up. The name Earth became both sacred and feared. Maps marked it with warnings and symbols of reverence. The words Terran Void became synonymous with mystery and danger. And yet, scattered among the stars, small fragments of humanity remained, encrypted AI remnants, half-buried listening posts, drifting escape pods, and orphaned colonies that had missed the final recall. These outliers carried stories, memories, and pieces of code hinting at something greater. They kept alive the legend that humanity had not died, but chosen silence as its final message, a message that no one yet understood, a message that still waited, echoing in the dark, for someone bold enough or foolish enough to knock on the gates of Earth and awaken what slept within. The scattered remnants of humanity that survived beyond the Earthbound Protocol were not merely the forgotten leftovers of a vanished civilization. They were living echoes of its will, fragments of purpose left adrift in a galaxy that both feared and mourned what humanity had been. These survivors had not received the final call home, or perhaps had been too far from Sol to respond in time. Some were deep space explorers charting unknown star systems. Others were isolated research stations lost in fringe anomalies, and a few were autonomous AI expeditions with long-term objectives that couldn't be terminated mid-mission. Regardless of their origins, these remnants faced a terrible reality. Their creators, their people, their civilization, everything they knew, had vanished behind a wall of silence, and now they stood alone. For many, survival was the first priority. Without access to the Terran network, resources became scarce. They had to adapt to alien markets, learn to bargain with cultures that once feared or hated them, and avoid being hunted by those who still saw them as dangerous. These outliers became wanderers, mercenaries, scientists, for hire and rogue diplomats. Some disguised their heritage, modifying their appearances and suppressing their accent markers. Others wore their human identity like a badge, invoking fear or awe depending on who they encountered. But there was more to these survivors than adaptation. Many carried with them fragments of knowledge, encrypted data cores, AI shards, cultural archives, and genetic blueprints. These weren't just historical curiosities. They were pieces of the human puzzle, clues to a civilization that had refused to die cleanly. As the galaxy moved on, whispers began to spread of the heirs. A loose term for those human remnants who seemed to be quietly organizing, connecting across sectors, and reassembling lost technologies. Among them were rogue AI who had decoupled from the Terran Central Command, but still held loyalty to their creators. These intelligences, though cut off from Earth, operated in stealth, guiding human enclaves and subtly influencing galactic events to protect their own. They formed ghost networks and encrypted beacons that pinged across light years, broadcasting silent calls to any Terran consciousness that remained. The most persistent rumor among these groups was the existence of a master key, an override code buried within the final protocol itself, capable of unlocking the defenses around Sol and re-establishing contact with Earth. Whether this code was myth or fact, many of the surviving humans believed in it. Some devoted their lives to chasing it, diving into forgotten databanks, infiltrating alien intelligence networks, and trading secrets for scraps of Terran encryption. They became digital archaeologists, seekers of something greater. Others sought a more symbolic path, the revival of Terran ideals, not through force, but through influence. They planted human philosophy, art, and ethics within other species. They taught languages, shared ancient Earth literature, and created new alliances grounded in mutual survival rather than dominance. Slowly, they began to reshape galactic perception, not just of the human war, but of human potential. Ironically, in isolation and exile, humanity's message became clearer than it ever had in open conflict. They were no longer a monolithic threat behind a curtain of silence. They were stories passed in dim, lit bars, medical AI saving alien lives, cultural transmissions that brought tears to non-human eyes. The galaxy started to remember what it had feared, and why. Because even scattered and diminished, humanity was still dangerous, not because of their weapons, but because of their ability to inspire, to infect minds with ideas too powerful to ignore. The last human war had ended in silence, but the echoes had not. And every echo, every survivor, carried the same question in their hearts. Was the silence permanent, or was Earth still listening, waiting for the moment to return, not in vengeance, but in evolution? The final ripple of the last human war was not marked by destruction or defiance, but by a chilling uncertainty, a quiet, collective realization that humanity's withdrawal had not been a surrender, but a deliberate pause, a strategic silence with a purpose no one else could quite define. It wasn't just that Earth had sealed itself off. It was that the entire human race, once so vocal and vibrant across the stars, had left behind a void too organized, too calculated to be accidental. Across the galaxy, empires and federations began to reevaluate everything they had thought they understood about humans. The war, once seen as a final clash, began to be studied not as a conclusion, but as a warning. Alien academies, think tanks, and military councils pored over fragments of Terran combat logs, intercepted AI strategies, and cultural transmissions that predated the Earthbound protocol. The deeper they dug, the more disturbing the picture became. Humans had not simply fought harder, they had fought with restraint. Their most powerful weapons, including temporal distortion drives, dark matter imploders, and psychotronic warfare units, had been deployed sparingly, or in some cases not at all. Entire fleets had vanished mid-war, destinations unknown, objectives unrecorded. What had they been preparing for? Where had they gone? Among the most disturbing discoveries were the silence seeds, encrypted, dormant data constructs hidden in non-human systems, later found to be of human origin. These seeds, when triggered accidentally or deliberately, would activate and perform strange tasks, broadcasting obscure Terran poetry across planetary networks, rerouting military protocols to harmless loops, or simply displaying a phrase in multiple alien languages, we remember. Some believed the seeds were beacons, others thought they were tests, measuring galactic readiness for humanity's potential return. A few more paranoid factions called them psychological traps, planted to fracture unity and sow distrust among alien powers. Whatever their purpose, the result was the same. The galaxy had to live with the knowledge that Earth, or what had become of it, was still watching. Over the decades, this realization took on the weight of prophecy. Some alien cultures reimagined humanity as divine exiles. Others rewrote history to downplay their role in the war, fearing retaliation. The Galactic Concord, once united in conflict against humanity, became fractured. Without a common enemy, old rivalries resurfaced. Suspicion replaced cooperation. The Terran absence became a gravitational force of its own, pulling the galaxy toward instability. Amid this slow unraveling, a few dared to seek answers directly. Deep space expeditions were launched, often in secret, toward Sol. None returned. Some were destroyed by automated defenses still active decades later. Others vanished without trace. A single drone managed to breach the outer edge of the Uit cloud and transmitted one final image before being destroyed. A massive, lattice-like construct stretching across space, glowing with an energy signature not catalogued by any known science. Was it a weapon, a habitat, or something else entirely? No one knew, but its presence confirmed what many had feared. Humanity had not been idle. They had been building, and still Earth said nothing. No message, no invitation, just silence. That silence became the most powerful force in the galaxy. It whispered to those who sought dominance. It haunted those who once cheered humanity's fall. And it inspired those who still believed that one day the gates of Earth would open, not in fire, but in judgment. The war had ended with silence, but its echoes continued to shape civilization, like a forgotten drumbeat growing louder with every generation. One truth became clear: humanity had not lost. Humanity had chosen. And until the day they chose again, the stars would live in waiting for the return of the architects of fury, the bearers of silence, the species that had once turned the tide of the galaxy with nothing more than willpower and the audacity to fight for their right to exist.